What is up, everybody? Is Coach Danny C in the house? We also have a special guest tonight. Really appreciate it. Joe McCarthy, one of my good friends. Joe, what's going on? How are you?
What's up? How you doing? Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, appreciate you. Joe is busy, so we do appreciate him. And I mean, that's why we just really quick, like that's why I brought Joe on. I don't, bring just like anyone on the podcast, but he is successful. He's running his own business. He's also fit and healthy. So I think with a lot of you guys, it's important to learn from somebody, except myself, like that's screaming in your face every day, right? Like you can learn from somebody else that's kind of like walking the walk, doing the things. He's staying fit, staying healthy, has a wife, has a daughter, right? And is fit, is healthy, running a business that's very successful. So we get to learn from him and we'll get it going. Is that cool with you, Joe?
Perfect.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Already got the podcast going. So, yeah, we're good to go. I got Instagram going as well. Appreciate everybody showing up. And if you are live right now, what you can do is hashtag I'm here. And maybe if you're on the replay, just so we see who's showing up, hashtag replay. That would be cool. And we'll go from there. But so today, gentlemen, we're really going to be focusing on how to balance life while working long hours and having a crazy schedule. So like with Joe, that's kind of what his life consists of. Obviously, he has some balance, but he knows there's just nights, you're clocking out at a late time, right? And like there's early mornings and, life could kind of be crazy. So we're going to just talk about some things that help Joe and that could help everybody really make sure you're balancing life, balancing fitness, health, wealth, relationships while having a crazy schedule. So when we talk about that, Joe, like for you, what's maybe the first thing that comes to mind that like helps you out in terms of, all right, you have a crazy life that maybe for a normal person like isn't easy to manage, but you know how to balance it, right? So what is like the first thing that comes to mind for you when it comes to that?
I mean, I think the baseline, like foundational thing is just making a schedule. Like if you don't have a schedule, and I also do this the night before. So, I've heard some people do it the morning of, but I feel like that's just a little bit too
Yeah.
short notice. Like
Yeah.
the night before I go to bed, and it might even end up being like 6, 7 p.m. Like before I'm even done working, I'll just make an entire schedule and I plan out everything from like when I wake up at like 6:37 in the morning down to like 10 p.m. at night. I think one thing people typically get wrong about scheduling their day is they only schedule work or they're only going to schedule meetings. But for me, like to balance, to use that term, I schedule everything from date nights,
Yeah.
family time,
Yeah.
work, out, pretty much everything, right?
Mm.
I'd say that's like the foundational thing is make a schedule the night before for exactly what you're doing. And then during those things, just be intentional with like what you're doing. So like if you're, in work mode, you're in call mode, just, do your best with only focusing on that stuff. Obviously, if you're in family mode, if you're in, date night mode, I mean, my mind is running like 24/7. So I
Yeah.
honestly have issues with like being present and like being in the moment, but
Right.
I do the best I can. Like if I'm on a date with my wife, I want to just be on a date with my wife. I'll turn off my phone. I don't look at like, texts or emails or anything like that.
Right.
So I think just, being present, making sure that you're maxing out that specific area for your life. And again, it also goes back to priorities. Like you want to schedule things that you want to get done. Because if it's not on the schedule, I always say this, it's not going to get done. So
Facts.
I'm in the social media space, right? So a lot of people come to me similar how they come to you and they make up the excuse of I don't have time. When in reality, we all have the same 24 hours. It's just about how we use those. So for
Right.
me, with content, I make content a priority during my week. Let's say I want to, post 3 to 5 times per week and I need to have 3 to 5 reels made. I'm going to schedule out 3 hours on a Saturday or, 2 hours on a Friday or whatever it is that's going to get that done. And I put that in my schedule the week before. So I know, hey, Friday at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. is content day. I'm not going to
Mhm.
schedule other meetings. I'm not going to schedule get togethers or anything like that that will conflict with that. And similar with fitness is like if you're not putting it on the schedule, I need to go to the gym for an hour today, or I need to, work on my diet for
Mhm.
like this amount of time during the week, you're
Mhm.
not going to get it done. So I'd say that's like the foundation of
I love
scheduling.
it. Yeah, man. No, I definitely agree with that. And just like compare it to, people that can kind of resonate with the podcast listening in terms of fitness. It's like having a workout plan for your day, right? For your
Mhm.
whole day, for your whole week, right? And you heard, everyone listening, like Joe talk about, even date nights are scheduled, right?
Mhm.
Even relaxing time is scheduled. Like everything is kind of scheduled out. So there's limited room for error, right? And when it's like when, I heard of something like years ago of someone talking about this. When you have like a to-do list or just something, a schedule that shows you exactly what to do, you don't have to waste time thinking about, what should I
Yeah.
do? And I struggle with this, man. Sometimes like, well, I'll like give myself too much freedom where it's like, oh, should I do this? And I'm just wasting a lot of
Yeah,
mental
you're wasting time
bandwidth.
to figure
Yeah,
out.
when I could just be putting all that energy towards the execution. So I think that's and something you said, Joe, is like if it's not on the schedule, it's probably not going to get fucking done, right?
Yeah.
Like let's just be real. And a lot of you guys, or people that are watching, like a lot of you don't have that non-negotiable on your schedule, whether it's a workout, eating healthy, or even just like having a lot of the guys listening, they have jobs, but maybe they have like a side hustle, or they want to start a
Mhm.
side business, or have a business, or they know they should be working on that project, but it's not on the schedule.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting it on a schedule, having a schedule, I love that. What do you think is like another thing? Maybe if you have a big number two, I want to hear that. But even maybe
Mhm.
getting more like mindset. What's kind of your mindset throughout the day when it comes to that? Because we can have the schedule, but it's a whole nother thing to follow through.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So what kind of, helps you goal setting? I don't know, I want to hear what Joe thinks about that, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let us
Yeah.
know.
I mean, it always comes like people probably already you should already know this. Like it always comes back to your why. Like why you
Mhm.
want this. So like it's the same with like creating content. It's the same with building your brand. It's the same with getting fit. It's like you need to understand like why do you even want this? Like you could say like, hey, I want to get fit and healthy and I want to have a good diet because I want to look fit and just feel good about myself. But it's like there's always something deeper. There's always like a
Right.
root. There's always like there's this exercise that my coach had me do a while back, and it's called the 7 levels of why. And he
Mm.
basically had me say like, why do I want to build my brand? You can ask yourself any type of question, and you just keep asking yourself why until you get
Right.
to that root reason. Like
Right.
what I realized is with building my brand, and you might realize that your answer is completely different than what you initially thought. Like with my personal brand, I said like, why do I want to build a brand?
Mm.
I want to build a brand because I want to make money. This is very surface level things. I want to build a brand because, I want to help more people. It's like very general answers. But as you get deeper,
Right.
you realize, okay, I want to build my brand because I want to be seen. I want to feel heard. Right. And
Mm.
maybe I want to
Mm.
feel heard because maybe back in high school, I was like a shy kid, not good
Right.
at sports. So you kind of have to go deeper. Like,
Right.
do you want to be fit and healthy because you want to look good, or is it because you want to live longer so that you can play with your family and your
Right.
kids and walk your daughter down the aisle one day? It's like there's
Mm.
always deeper reasons. So if you can tie yourself back to that reason day in and day out, that's going to make it way easier. Like I think Frederick Nietzsche has that quote, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how, right?
Mm.
So if you guys have a reason why and you remind yourself of that why every single day, it just makes it easier. So that's my mindset around it is like
Right.
figure out why you want it. Cause like you could, go make the schedule and you don't, if you try to go about your day just going through this strict schedule and you don't know why, you're probably gonna fall off
Mm.
the wagon eventually.
That's powerful. That's powerful, man. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And I love how you said, like, if you have the why, then I mean, I'm gonna misquote it, but if you have like the why, then really
Yeah,
any
it can just go
how
for
you
anything.
could exactly like you'll figure it out. You'll figure
Yeah.
it out. And having the right process helps. So I think I like the 7 levels of why as well, because if guys are listening right now and they I just hear a lot of guys, oh, I want to lose weight, tone up, but that's just so, it's not superficial, but it's just surface level.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You want like there's something deeper. And even when you say like, oh, I just want to feel confident with my shirt off, or
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love how you said walking your daughter down the aisle. Like that's where you get to like that third, fourth, you're really peeling back the layers. And it really comes down to growing up. I mean, maybe you were told like you weren't good enough or you're going through some things, and that kind of led into a lot of people gaining weight, being inconsistent. Because with you, like running the business, and also we should have done an intro of like who you even are. We skipped that, but like with you, doing these, obviously you're really busy. It's like you could just take the easy route and maybe,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, and work less
A lot of
or
people do.
have an easier job, right? But having that why is super powerful. But
Yeah.
just real quick side note, like tell the peeps, we should have done this, for a second, but tell them like what you do and just like some of your credentials. This is your opportunity to brag a little bit.
Yeah. So my name is Joe McCarthy, at Real Joe McCarthy on Instagram. I essentially help people build their brands, get out to more people, help them, find their voice, figure out what they stand for, pave their lane. I've been in the branding space for 8 years. We've helped over 7,000 clients since 2018. I scaled my brand past 400K, consistently getting good reach. That's just a quick cliff notes on me. I grew up on a farm in Virginia, and I kind of came across social media pretty early on, like 14, 15. I used it to like sell eggs and chicken and stuff like that. And that's when I had that like epiphany moment, like, I could use social media to generate revenue, right? Because I had all these eggs in my fridge and I just didn't have any clients to sell. So that's when I came across social media. And then it kind of morphed into like me reading like all these, books behind me about like Napoleon Hill and success and whatnot. And that's when I started my personal brand and eventually scaled that up. And now I pretty much just help, teach other people to do that as well.
Gotcha. Love it, dude. 100%. Yeah. And so obviously I appreciate you sharing that. So it's like you've been building, going through a lot, and like a lot of guys, when they want their career to kind of take off and do really well, it's like, oh, let me just put my health on the back burner, right? It's like, oh, I'm just not going to work out. But I think having the mindset of like, you know what, I do want to build my brand. Like I want to start this business. I want to help other people. That's the exact reason why I have to have that why always on my mind. I have to be fit and healthy, working on my body, working on my mindset. So was that kind of like your mindset where it's like, all right, I want to go to the next level of my career. Like also my health has to match that. Was that kind of your mindset there?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much like I never like to be like one dimensional. Like, again, I think like you said, a lot of people they think that like you have to put health on the back burner to achieve wealth, or they think you need to like put the wealth on the back burner to have a good relationship. It's like it doesn't have to be an or, it can be an and. Like the goal is to have it all, right? The goal is to have, health, wealth, love, happiness, or however you want to put it. There's all kinds of different acronyms for like having it all, right? And that's the goal. And I always knew like I didn't want to be the richest guy in the graveyard, right? Like you don't want to die young with a ton of money. So yeah, exactly. I wanted to make sure that as I was scaling up and just in business naturally, like it's going to put more on you. So like you need to be able to handle stress. You need to be able to handle things at a higher level. If you have to do like 100 different things throughout the day, you need to have the energy to, get that stuff done. And if you're just eating like garbage and you're not working out, like I had a period where I did kind of put business in front of my health at one point, like maybe like a few months. And like there was noticeable differences with my energy. I just like, even if I went to bed at 10 and woke up at like 8 a.m., I got like 12 hours of sleep and I still felt like garbage. So there's definitely times where I just like even felt personally like I need to get my health in check because business is going to demand more of me and I need to be healthy in order to take on these next challenges.
I love that, bro. Yeah, really making sure that you're dialed in, so the business is dialed in. And I know for me, I mean, probably because I'm a fitness coach, but just like I feel like it's also with most industries. It's like there have been periods I went all in on my business, but I actually did worse because I wasn't focusing on my fitness. So I was like showing up at like a weaker level and like energetically, with me being a fitness coach and I'm trying to teach people fitness and I'm not even freaking going to the gym. Like there was just a period where I'm like, all right, I'm going to work 16 hours a day. I'm going to do sign all these clients. I literally did the worst ever because I wasn't even staying true to what I do, my word and everything. So it's like, if you like, and I talk to a lot of guys that, have this kind of going on. For you, if you're helping other people with their brand, their appearance, like, dude, if you were overweight,
you got to practice what you preach.
Exactly.
You're a fitness coach and you don't have that body that people are striving for. Same thing with like social media. That's why I always preach having a solid personal brand. And with me specifically, it's like if I'm teaching you how to scale a following, I better have a good following. If I teach you how to build a badass looking brand, I better have a badass looking brand. So you definitely need to practice what you preach, just for credibility purposes.
Yeah, love that, man. 100%. So let's go over like maybe one or two things. You talked about a schedule. You talked about the why. Do you have, maybe that next thing that's really been helpful for you to just like really balance, all your life and what you've been trying to build around like your crazy schedule?
I mean, I think setting up systems helps a lot because I think a lot of people, like, let's say you make a schedule the night before, you're able to stick to it, but it's just like there's so much on there. Like even with like creating content, like I try to preach like creating a system for creating content, because a lot of people, what they like to do is they'll have like an idea in their head, and then they'll maybe write out a little script that same day, and then
film it ASAP.
And then post it, and it's like they try to do it all at once. There's no like streamlined system. So that's like one thing that's helped me level up is like I used to do everything myself. So number one is delegation with systems, but the other thing is like strategizing that whole week to where, like, let's say the first 2 days, and I think I went over this in my workshop, is just have like a day where like you're kind of coming up with ideas, you're doing research. Then midweek, like you can start writing scripts, figuring out what you want to say for those reels, coming up with topics, and then maybe you film everything on a Friday. And I think people try to like mush it all into one thing. And I don't know if you've dived into this kind of stuff, but like there's different like energies that you feel throughout the day. So like maybe morning time you have more of that like creative energy. So you don't want to like slam a ton of sales calls in the morning where like this creative energy, and then right after these sales calls get into like writing scripts. Like you want to think about it on like a next level where it's like you want to kind of put your tasks in an order where your energy is going to serve you. So that's something that I don't know if I stumbled across a YouTube video that's talked about that stuff, but that's helped me a ton, is just get more strategic with like how you're scheduling out your day, and get more strategic on like streamlining and creating systems that will make it just as easy as possible. Because like I used to film like, let's say 2 to 3 reels, and it took me the entire day to do that. I couldn't focus on anything else, and all I could get out of it was like a few reels. Now it's like I can go throughout my week, and it only takes me like an hour per day or even less, but I can get out like 5, 10, 15 reels. I can create course videos and all this stuff. So that's like the biggest thing for me, is like streamlining and creating processes, and then just think about scheduling on that higher level as far as like, benefiting like the energy thing that I just pointed on.
No, yeah, 100%. I love that. Yeah, I think just like you said, you hit it on the nail with, I think even delegation is a big one, but also streamlining processes. This is something I've been trying to incorporate, but even right now, like I have a lengthy to-do list, and I'm like, I could delegate this, right? And I think even the little things, right? Like if you're a busy guy listening, and you work from home, and you're struggling with time management or whatever it is, just like streamlining your grocery process. That's what I've been doing. I've been using Instacart, right? And it's just like I've been finally doing this, and it's like it streamlines. It's like I just think of it as saving time. It's a
save time
process, right? Even with just like I went from using my notes to Google Calendar, right? It was just like once I did that a while back, it's like that's a streamlined system. So for any of you guys, it's like I think a good thing is really being self-aware of the things that you do on a daily basis, and just being like, can I delegate this? Can I streamline this through like an app or a list or something? I think that will really help. Yeah. That's a really good piece of advice, especially.
And one thing with delegation too, just to like kind of point on that a little bit. Like I think a lot of people are scared to delegate because they think that they, like the people who are working with them, aren't going to be able to do it as quality as them. And naturally, like no one's going to be able to sell as good as you are on your own product. No one's going to be able to have the specific scripts or whatever it is. Versus like what you can do personally. So yes, you may not be able to get people to that same quality that you're at, but if you can even get it to like 70%, that's worth delegating. Because if you also just do the math, like it depends on what you're worth per hour, but let's say you're worth $40 an hour or $100 an hour, or even like $150 per hour. and you're doing like these small tasks, like let's take editing videos, for instance. Like I actually enjoy editing content still, so I still do it here and there. But,
Yeah.
I got to a point where it's like I had so much to do during my day and I just didn't have time to edit all my reels. So I would delegate that, pay someone $25. And it used to take me like an hour to do it. It's like if my time's worth $120 an hour and I'm spending an hour creating this reel, when I can pay someone $25 to do it, it's just like mathematically it doesn't make sense to do it all yourself. And then, once you delegate, you can take your time and you can go put it towards something that's actually going to like help move the business forward.
I love that. Yeah, 100%. No, I like that. And it's like, that's really, I know, like Dan Martell and stuff.
Yeah.
Buying back your time. I think that's powerful to really, because people think, oh, I could do it all myself. A lot of people have egos, especially guys. They're like, I could do it myself. I could do it better. But that's not how you're going to grow. And if we're talking, guys that maybe have businesses or companies, whatever, especially like that's not how you're going to scale being a one-man show. Like Jeff Bezos doesn't deliver the fucking packages. You know what I mean? Like, so delegate your stuff. And no, I love that 100%. So let's touch on maybe like one more final thought for you. I love I think everything is really geared towards guys with busy schedules. So this is good with like scheduling. You also have a why, but also like with your schedule, let's streamline some stuff so you're not fucking wasting time. And like what's maybe one, final thing that they could kind of latch onto that will really help like someone with a busy schedule?
That's a good question. I mean, I think you kind of touched on it with the priorities. Like, I think if you just need to make sure that you have like fitness as a priority, and that's going to tie back to, your why. But honestly, I think like if you can make a schedule the night before, if you can kind of streamline that process, if you can have something that you can stick to, and if you have that thought in the back of your mind of like why you need to stick to it, I mean, I think that should be able to get you to hit your goals. So I'll ask you though, like what's like some of the biggest things that you see men struggling with as far as staying consistent, whether it's with gym or diet? Like what do you think is like the biggest hurdle to come over?
That's a great question, man. Yeah, maybe you could kind of touch on it because if I give you the struggle, you can help, and maybe you would like struggle with it before. The biggest thing is probably just really their schedule. So that's why I love how you're talking about like time management and stuff, because guys that I'm working with and guys that are listening right now, it's like excuses aside, they are busy, right? They they do have like lives. So they're living lives where working long hours and stuff. So that is a hurdle for them. And I think really just having the right plan, having the right system and like the priorities in place is really where they struggle. And the thing is like, they've tried so many things before, right? And they kind of have this mindset. It's like, nothing else is going to work. I've tried it all. They kind of write this story in their head that it's like, I'm just big boned, DNA, I have a slow metabolism.
Okay, so that's another thing is the stories. Like I think everyone has stories in their head. And I had stories like, I was telling myself that like I couldn't charge $4K for my program because I'm too young. Like everybody has stories that they're telling themselves in their heads. So I'd say that's probably point 3 is, audit the stories that you're telling yourself, because 90% of the time they're stories that are not helping you hit your goals, and 90% of the time they're stories that are just not true. And that's why we call them stories, because they're not true. So like just audit your stories, figure out like what you're telling yourself, because again, 90% of the time it's probably not aiding you. And then what you want to do is once you've identified those negative stories that you're telling yourself, think about a way that you can kind of flip it and think of something that's going to help you hit your goals. So like you said, maybe you have, overweight family members and you're telling yourself, oh, it's genetic and I'm big boned. That's not going to help you hit your goals. That is not aiding you in any way. Right. So try to think once you've identified that, like, oh, I had the story that, XYZ. Think about how you can shift that story to come up with one that's going to help you hit your goals versus stop you from achieving them.
I love that 100%. Dude, that's the biggest thing is the story. I just had a call, like, that's why I was late to the podcast. Sorry to Joe. But I had a call, like, same thing is the mental barriers of like, he was telling himself, I just tried everything. I can't do it. I can't succeed. And same thing with you with business. It's like, I'm not able to provide for this or charge for this. Who am I to do this? And that's just a fake belief that you're telling yourself, because maybe you heard it from somebody else, or maybe you're just you're setting like a glass ceiling on yourself. So yeah, man, no, I totally agree with that. And I think, if the thing is, if guys are listening, like if they rewrite their story and tell themselves they can do it, it is possible. We have clients that are 70, 80 years old that are
Mhm.
still crushing their wealth and fitness journey. And so if you do that and then talk, really do the tangible things we talked about today with like having a schedule, right? Having like a why, delegating, but also streamlining your schedule, I think they'll see some serious success. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? You agree?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing is like once you guys start seeing that success, like once you see, the weight go down or you see that in the mirror, you're getting that physique, I think that also just starts to compound. And it's like, with you, I'm sure like it kind of bleeds into all areas of life. Like if you have, good health and you feel good, it's going to naturally show up on your sales calls. It's going to show up in your energy at work. It's going to show up in your relationships, both your wife, your husband, your kids. So
Mhm.
it's like if you can just start building that discipline and momentum, then that's just going to help in like all areas of life. But it's really just about getting started. It's about, starting this momentum, because once you can start it, it's hard to stop, and it makes it easier to keep going.
Right. That's it. Just starting. A lot of guys are listening and they're listening, but not doing. You're
Yeah.
right. So it's like, if you're listening, just take action. It'll all work out for you 100%. So, Joe, I know you said it before, but where can they find you? Drop the IG.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know you kind of said a little bit about what you do, but yeah, if you'd like, throw a CTA out there.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I know there's entrepreneurs that listen to this, and if you are trying to grow your personal brand, especially social media, like the
Mhm.
thing is, we work with a lot of guys, and a lot of guys listen to this podcast that are older and they're kind of still newer to social media. So Joe is your guy for that. So Joe, where can we find you, and who should follow you, and like
Yeah.
who
So
should hit you up?
at Real Joe McCarthy. Instagram is where I'm most, popular. It's where I put a lot of my content and value. You can technically find me on all the socials, but I would recommend Instagram at Real Joe McCarthy. I've noticed my demographic for clients is coaches, business owners between like 40 and 55. So it is that older demographic. So if you do have older people listening, feel free to DM me. But I've worked with people anywhere from 20 years old up to, 55. So
There we go.
primarily help people just build their brands, get out to more people. So if you want to grow your brand, your income, if you want to, streamline your content, go over, some of the things we talked about in this podcast, feel free to DM me. But even if you don't, work with me one-on-one, at least do yourself a favor and go through the content, learn a thing or two, because personal branding it's massive. So
Yeah, I love it. No, I went to a workshop that Joe was hosting, was super helpful. If you are in that arena where maybe even if you don't have it like your own company, maybe you're like helping with social media through a different one, wherever, and you want to maybe one day get into your personal brand, just like hit him up. At least just watch his stuff. It's good stuff. And he's doing a lot, posting every single day, like has a crazy life, and he's still fit. And it's not just me. Like a lot of these guys, they're like, oh, he's young and has all this energy. It's like, I have energy because we do all these things. That's why we have energy, because we have a why, we have a schedule, we're delegating, streamlining, all that. So this is super, super helpful. So yeah, man. Any final thoughts? Last words?
I appreciate you having me on. Last words. One thing that actually just came to mind is also just auditing your schedule. It's like, make your schedule, but kind of figure out like what you're actually doing during those times. Cause there's this concept of death by 1,000 cuts. Like I guarantee you a lot of us are probably scrolling briefly on social media.
Death by 1,000 what?
Death by 1,000 cuts. So it's kind of like if you
if you're just like slow
5 minutes, 5 minutes, like I got a little break,
Scrolling.
5 minutes scroll, 5 minutes scroll, and that adds up. Like you could probably audit your schedule and realize, okay, I wasted an hour and a half just lollygagging, doing nothing. So audit your schedule, because if you think like Elon Musk, for instance, like he kind of squishes like 4 months of work into like 4 days.
Like 90 days, 4 days.
Yeah, how he's doing that. He's being super effective with his time. So if your main excuse for not working out or not like, auditing your diet or focusing on diet, if that's your main excuse is not having time, I urge you guys to just go back to your schedule and really look at what you're doing.
Dude, trust me. I know they're all guilty. I'm watching all of them.
I'm guilty too.
No, I know. I am as well. I find myself sitting there. I'm like, I just did nothing for 7 minutes. But if you're self-aware of that, I think it's good. But I like that. So do a time audit. And yeah, any more questions that you have for Joe, you could reach out in terms of personal branding stuff, and maybe just like staying, fit because he is healthy. And if you don't want to hear from me that I am a coach, like hear from someone that's, busy, working long hours, doing the thing, and he's kind of in your position. So that is it. So Joe, you can hang tight right there, man. Dude, we appreciate you so much. And for everybody else, we appreciate you. Thank you. And we will go from there. We will end it off, and we appreciate you. Much love. See ya. All right. Let me